Okay, Ron, so let's talk a little bit about your demand as a coach. You stay pretty busy and active. There's a lot of people interested in your Gold Coach information. One of the first things I think whenever a student comes to you is that they have something they want to fix. They're interested in just learning something new, but you approach it a little differently when they first come to you. What's the first thing you're looking for when you work with a student?
You know, we do by appointment only. And I always block out a brand new student. I give them at least a couple hours, 2.5, maybe 3 hours. And as they come in, we do the introduction, hi, how you doing, and so forth, kind of just get a feel for them. I also get to have a look at them. Am I dealing with female, youth, senior citizen like myself? I already start that process. And usually the first thing I'll do is in the process of the interview, I will ask them, I'll say, okay, what is it next year that you would like to see different? Or what are you looking for that you're here? Why are you here? What are you here for?
Right.
You know, if they want to buy a ball, I'm going to say why. Etc. So I question what it is they're after. And then I might take them right to my fitting table and I would ask them what weight ball they bowl with.
Sure.
In the past, what are they looking for? They want to change, etc. And I would measure their hand because I'm just at that point involved with just the hand. I'd have no other influences on me.
Right.
I'm simply going to look at the hand and take the information the hand tells me. And I would record that. And at that point, I probably would invite them to bring their bowling ball up, get their shoes on, put them on the lane, and I would ask them, I said, listen, treat this just like league. You're walking in your league, you know, you've said hello to all your friends and the people you don't like. Okay, and you know, you've got through that part.
Sure.
And treat this just like you would in league. So I get to see how they do their pre-shot routines or their setup or so forth. Obviously, the youth just run up here and throw the ball. You know, and they're like, oh boy. But as you get a little bit older, and I do deal with a lot of people over the age of 45 or 50, it takes us a little longer to warm up. I can speak from personal experience,
Sure.
You know. And so for me, actually the majority of customers I work with right now, probably seniors.
Okay.
My next largest group is from 18 and under. And the middle people, although they bowl a lot and they're excited, they're busy earning a living, taking care of children, etc. And so I don't have a lot of those customers that come in yet. So I've seen so many changes over the years that I've been doing this. I think I started drilling my first ball in '65, a Brunswick Black Beauty, mind you.
Wow.
1795 in the pro shop, drilled.
Outstanding.
I've seen so many changes. You know, the equipment, the environment that we bowl on. And I think that probably the fitting process and the coaching process is the hardest to keep up with as the things change.
Absolutely.
This environment's alive, it changes all the time.
Right.
You know, the new balls with all the friction have evolved a whole new style of bowling. And so I think the fitting and the coaching have to match up. I think we've got to get on it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my desire is right now. You know, bowling is a lifetime sport. I'm going to get to do this. I still bowl, not a lot. I try not to embarrass myself too often. So, but it is a lifetime sport. And so having said that, your customers, you build those customers. If you're in the pro shop business, you want that customer to leave your shop and drag their friends in.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you build a business.
Yeah, especially your particular format and exactly what you talked about, where instead of just throwing somebody on the approaches and getting out there and making them bowl and just, yep, this is wrong, let's fix that, or, you know, here's what I like about your game. The fact that you as a professional, and then maybe a tip to the people that are watching, when you go out and get a lesson with a coach, you should be concerned about making sure that fit is the first thing you're looking at, because that sounds like it's not only important, but it's going to keep you from maybe seeing something that's a liability on the approach, because now you've addressed it with the fit, maybe you've got that corrected and you've addressed that before you get out on the floor.
Right.
So.
The thing I can do, and I'm very fortunate because I have the pro shop background. I mean, that was really it. I can, once I make that fit change, I can kind of eliminate that the fit's going to be part of the existing issues the bowler's facing with. And often bowlers' styles, you know, it's like your signature. I guarantee you, if you saw a shadow of Walter Ray bowl, you'd know that was Walter.
Sure.
Or you'd know it was Pete. Or you'd know it was Jason Belmonte. And by the way, that's another subject for us, Jason Belmonte, because
Sure.
I have a ton of two-handed bowlers I work with,
Great.
including a 65-year-old man.
Outstanding.
He loves it. So again, that coaching aspect.
Right.
You obviously have been around quite a bit, worked in some really great places.
Sure.
You have seen these things and I know you teach the bronze, silver classes.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yep.
And you get a lot of questions.
I do. So hopefully we're going to get a chance to run some of those questions that we see not only in my classes, but just in general about coaching by one of the best coaches, I think, on our scope whenever we talk about coaching in general. And we're fortunate to be able to work with you. Thanks again for giving us this chance to do this. Let's take a look specifically at some areas, maybe even in the fit and or the physical game, that are going to help our players get better as we start moving along. Okay, Ron, so let's take, and since you mentioned starting with the pro shop and the fit is really one of your first areas of concern, let's talk about some myths and misconceptions of what we see inside of fitting in pro shop. Now, for one, everybody's concerned about their span or their size of their hand, or just that it's going to fit comfortable on their hand for sure. So talk a little bit about, I think one of the areas that is concerned a lot of people is the pitch, the angle that their thumb or fingers are going to fit in the ball, and maybe how that's relative to what's actually happening when you're moving with those numbers and identifying what you need to do. So,
yeah, I think that if you put 10 pro shop operators in a room and lock them in, you get 10 ideas about this, and then I think that's why IBSI is so important, is to have some kind of standard where, you know, if I'm talking to you and you live in Florida or Texas, and I live out here on the West Coast where it's, you know, green and
beautiful
weather. Yeah, we've rained forever. So the thing about it is that pitch is a measurement of the drilling bit hitting the center of the drilling of the ball. I mean, dead center. So 1 inch would be 1 inch of movement at the center of the ball.
Okay.
But in truth, my thumb never gets anywhere near the center of the ball. It only gets about halfway down.
Okay.
Maybe 2 and whatever inches long it is. But
sure.
So the actual pitch is a measurement, and if I look at this angle here being in the ball, pitch is a measurement of that angle.
Okay.
It changes that angle and gives me the opportunity to have a stronger angle to hold on to the ball, requiring me to use less hand pressure to hold on to the ball. Therefore, I can have a freer swing. It's impossible to have a nice free gravity swing if the fit is incorrect. If it forces you to hang on too hard, you're going to labor, you're going to hold the weight of the ball, lift the weight of the ball, and throw the weight of the ball. You're not going to bowl well. It's going to limit your average at some number, and it's going to say you will not be any better than this. That's it.
Right.
And so, of course, you get those people coming into your shop, and they go, "I've been stuck here for," and they want to have changes. So the first thing is change the fit. Now, if you invest the time and energy into the fit change, then you got to also go into the coaching side, because they don't know how to bowl with less hand pressure.
Sure.
And that takes some skills. You got to learn it.
So, so regards to pitch, you're specifically talking about I even asked the thumb pitch.
Just thumb pitch.
The big thing and the big myth is that if you change a lot, you're going to really change a lot of actually what the bowler's doing, and that's not necessarily the truth. A lot of a difference change in a thumb pitch, whether it's going forward or reverse or lateral, one way or the other, are not necessarily going to change physically what the bowler's hand feels like a lot, as much as it may change what they're actually doing on the approach a little bit more than that. So ultimately, when you're looking at pitch and you're talking specifically about how it affects a player, a large number change is not going to be a lot of physical change when it comes to the actual angle you're adjusting.
Yeah, in fact, I've often take to writing the decimal number down. So if I want to make an inch reverse pitch in the fingers, I write 1,000.
Sure.
They don't know what that means, so they're okay with it.
Okay.
You know, but if they know that I pitch the fingers 1 inch reverse, they think, "Oh my gosh, I'll never be able to lift the ball."
Right.
No lift, no hook, right? In the
anxiety,
old school,
sure,
you know, where lift was the thing that, you know, if the 5-pin was standing, you know, your friends would go, "Huh, you didn't lift that one, did you?" Yeah. So lift was the old way we taught it.
Okay.
That's not how the bowlers bowl now.
Right.
All the high rev players, nobody lifts the ball, only when they pick it up off the ball return.
Sure.
They rotate the ball. Their fingers apply energy to the outside edge of the ball
Okay.
and spin it. It's pretty simple.
So it goes away from lifting to 10%.
And so the fit changes, you know, of the Bill Taylor, who was one of my teachers.
Sure.
He created the original concept that we all followed. And that was for rubber bowling balls, you know, a Brunswick Black Beauty, which is my first ball. And they were, I mean, my God, you didn't, you know, the pitch, you were hanging on for dear life. I mean, you didn't have to hang on for dear life. You couldn't get your thumb out of the ball.
Sure.
It was rubber, right? So nowadays we put thumb slugs in a bowling ball. They're very slick. They're hard to hold on to. Your thumb flies out of there. So hand pressure kept increasing. but we didn't do anything about it. So I've taken and started pitching a lot more forward. I started at 0 at 4.5 inches.
Okay.
So span, let's talk about span for a second. You know, the old myth, if you got a big hand and a long span, you're going to have a lot of revs.
A lot of revolutions.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's a myth. I had no revs. Okay.
All right.
And I had a 5-inch span. So that's a fair size span. And, the reason I have a 5-inch span is I have a web here that opens up a lot.
Right.
And I have a joint that bends a lot here. So I can extend that 5-inch span.
A long span.
You, on the other hand, well, not quite 5 inches, that's for sure. So, however, you mentioned that you had a long span. Someone stretched you because they thought you'd have more revs, didn't they?
For the longest time, my first fitters that got a hold of my hand were actually stretching me, telling me that if I had a stretched span, I was going to generate more revolutions on the ball. And that limited what I could do to a ball. It limited my muscle movement. So that was definitely a myth in my case.
And I like the part in the old days where they said if it didn't burn your fingers, you weren't doing it right.
That's right.
Boy, I've seen fingers that were calloused on the ends and burned. Looked like that guy was having a lot of fun.
Just injured, yeah.
So for me, making a fit is about preventing injury. Number one priority, prevent injury.
Right.
Number two, allow the skill of the player to develop to the maximum they are willing to put in. In other words, don't let the fit stop them at some number and say, well, you're not going to get any better because every 7 shots you throw out the window because of the fit. So if you want to know about your fit, there are a lot of ways to do that test. It's another part we can do. But there are some things that you can do if you're not, there are a lot of people that are located in areas where there are no coaching and maybe they don't have pro shops. And you're on your own and you're trying to help yourself. And I think that we want to, at some point, cover all of those things. Sure.
So let's take a look and keep in mind that we're going to talk fit. We're going to do some demonstrations, show a little bit about what can be used as far as fitting techniques. The fit's going to be important when it comes to managing your game and your equipment, so make sure you've got that as one of the first priorities when it comes to magnifying your ability to go be effective on and off the lanes.
Right, and one of the suggestions I have, of course, is if you're in a large metropolitan area, find an IBSIA certified pro shop operator. At least they paid the money and went to school and learned some fundamentals about the fitting process.
The education certification is there, so make sure you find somebody that's going to help you get that fit in the right way so that when you're out there on the approaches, you're not concerned about it coming off your hand or giving you any kind of limitations when it comes to executing shots and making your game stronger.
Okay, what I've done is taken a piece of metal and it's cut in the same diameter as a bowling ball. And I talked earlier about a bowling ball, the drill bit, pitch is measured by the drill bit hitting the center of the bowling ball. So right now I have my thumb at 0. That's the very center part right here. This would be 0 pitch. And look at the movement. I'm going to go to a half reverse. And you can see that my thumb didn't move very much. There's a half forward. And there's 1 inch forward, and all that does is change this angle here and give me a sharper angle to hold on to, requiring much less hand pressure to hold on to the ball. As you can see, my thumb is not all the way down here, so it doesn't travel that much. My thumb doesn't feel that incredible amount of change. So there would be my 0 pitch, and that's 1 inch forward right there. That gives me a much better angle to hold on to the ball. Not everybody's going to have 1 inch. This is just an illustration that I can increase. If someone's having difficulty holding on to the ball, I can just increase that angle and make it easier. So what I have here that you're looking at is a bowling ball, and that has the holes drilled in it. And what I've done is I've drawn the center line. That's a line dead center of the grip. I've marked the drilling holes for the fingers and, as you can see, the thumb. And so all bowling balls are laid out this way, and all pitches are measured north and south. So this pitches this way would be reverse. That means that the hole is drilled away from the center of the grip. Forward would be the hole would be drilled toward the center of the grip, and the same for the thumb. The thumb would be forward would be toward the center of the grip. Reverse would be away from the center of the grip. And we have tools like this that can measure the actual pitch of the bowling ball, of the holes drilled in the balls. You can see this pitch gauge right here. That is about 3/4 of an inch reverse in these fingers. in this particular ball, and I already know the thumb is, in this case, 1 inch forward. So it is a measurement. Now I can go left to right. That would be, this gauge would then be here. These two holes, your finger holes, want to be parallel with each other. The key is to have them parallel. So on average, it's the pitches are like 7/16 left and 7/16 right, the other one, so that the holes don't run into each other. You don't want the holes to come together in there and break the bridge out. And it's nice not to have a big wide 1/2 inch bridge. So all grips are laid out this way. And here comes the myth part. If I turn this like this, I didn't change anything as far as how the holes are drilled into the bowling ball. But there can be an illusion, especially an illusion, of an offset thumb where, I'll get this yet, I'm going to get my quarter scale out. And if I say, wait a minute, I want my thumb and my finger to line up. So I can draw a line right like that. And now the finger looks like it's drilled in line with the thumb, and this is offset over here to the right. That's just an illusion. So an offset is nothing more than that. However, there is something called the center line transfer. It is the pressure that when I have my fingers pull toward my palm, they would pull in a direction that would travel in that direction like that. Usually it's about 10 degrees or 15 degrees. And sometimes I may take my finger inserts, especially when I use ovals, I never use power lifts, and I turn them and I face that CLT line. That is not an offset. It is simply matching up with the way my fingers in my hand press against the palm of my hand. So it just makes it a little more creature comfort to have the ovals lined up with my CLT. I can find that by simply putting my thumb in the ball, laying my hand down, and I'll see which direction my fingers want to travel. So something that, yes.
Something to keep in mind. Definitely informational. This is really good to have the definitions and kind of know what to communicate or even understand from your Pro Shop operator when you guys are talking back and forth. So let's take a look now at a tool that will help us kind of identify how much change there's going to be in pitch when it comes to looking at your overall layout and your finger and your hand in the ball.
Right.
Okay, Ron, so in talking about the fit, just in general, there's some basic information you need to know when you go in to talk to your Pro Shop operator. What's something our players can do to get prepared to go in and talk to that person?
Well, I have a little tip for you where you can kind of measure your own hand, just in general for span. So to do that, I'm going to suggest to you, if you're right-handed, measure your right hand, of course. I want to mark the bending joints of the two joints in your finger, like so. We only measure this one finger. So I would have that joint marked and this one joint where they bend. And then if you can eye it and you're really good at that, select exact dead center and draw a line there, and you're not going to work, are you? There you go.
Got it.
Draw a line right there. Now what you want to do is you kind of want to draw that around the side. So you get your own personal bowling ball, place your thumb in the ball, lay your hand over the top of your inserts, and you want to see where that line lines up, that middle line. It should be at the gripping edge of your finger hole for your middle finger. That would be pretty close to an ideal span. If it's above or below, it's either longer or shorter, and I want to tell you right now, if it's a little bit off, like a 16th, don't go running into your Pro Shop going, oh, you missed my fit. Because that's not the way to do it. However, it would give you something if you're like a 1/4 inch off or so forth. It's something you might want to check out with a really good qualified certified Pro Shop operator and say, it kind of feels short or long, because you cannot out bowl a bad fit, period.
Right, so definitely take this information. If you're just looking for something to just go in and talk with your Pro Shop operator about and feel comfortable going in with some information, simple as identifying where your approximate span should be, is going to help you get on the right track and maybe give you some more detail and communicate effectively in getting your grip right.
Yes, and I think one of the other things I don't know about you, Stephen, but new ball comes out, kind of want it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I have my ball I use all the time in league, but I went down to the Nationals and saw this new ball, Guy says, "You bring your specs with you?" I go, "No." So he measured my hand, gave me a new ball. Okay, went home with it. Yeah, it was really different than what I had at home.
Sure.
So now I got two balls that aren't the same. So a friend of mine said, "No problem, I'll fix it for you." Now I got another problem going on. So here's the deal. If you kind of stick with that same pro shop guy, it's great to go down there to Nationals, buy a ball, bring it home, let your pro shop guy drill it, because he knows you and he knows what you need.
Right.
And you will have two balls that feel the same. And I think it's really important if you got four balls and you put your hand in them and you can't tell which ball you got your hand in, perfect.
Great fit, yeah.
Yeah, that means that the guy really did his job properly. My other thought would be, of course, if you're like most of us, I mean, if I happen to go out and have a really good salmon dinner and a lot of salt, the next morning I get up and if I bowled a morning league, I'm going to put my thumb in the ball and it won't go in because I retained a lot of fluids. That's where interchangeable thumbs come in.
Okay.
I highly, highly recommend there are two manufacturers, Vice and Turbo Grips, that make interchangeable thumbs. They are really great. It allows me to make thumbs for someone. I can make, especially people that have trouble with hand swelling and so forth. And we all know who we are. You know, the pressure of a tournament comes on and my brain swells up, my hand swells up. You know how that goes. So I want to have some thumbs that are emergency. Like if you can't get your thumb in the ball, you can't bowl. So you want to always have those 2 or 3 emergency thumb sleeves so that, yes,
Right.
in case I really swell up, it is just such a great tool to take advantage of. They've been around now for 10, 15 years. I think everybody's in their 3rd generation. They really, really work well. I highly recommend them. This way, all of your bowling balls feel the same, by the way. You go to shoot your spare ball, you just take your thumb and put it in your spare ball and make the shot. There you go. And they all feel the same. So really key to help your thumb timing, which of course is one of those issues that goes haywire when the ball doesn't fit right.
Sure. So take this information from Coach Ron. Make sure you're comfortable communicating with your pro shop. Make sure you're comfortable having the same individual fit that and get that feel for you the right way. And take it and make sure in your game that you're comfortable and you have the same feel from ball to ball. That way you're not missing shots that somebody else has tried to help fix your game or correct it has caused a liability. So
absolutely.
Great.
I agree.